Hello, darlings. Welcome to Front Porch Feelings.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
It is season
3,
Three.
episode 5.
I knew the episode. I can't remember the season. But we're going to call this season 3, episode 5, take 2.
Take 2. Why take 2?
I'm glad you asked. Because we sat out on our front/back porch and recorded the entire episode. And it was good. It was a really good one.
And then the sun intervened.
The sun intervened by
and
turning
shut down the laptop.
My laptop off. So we're at take 2, which means I will probably say fewer words. So it may be all the better for it.
This will be like a Clint Eastwood movie where he says less than the other characters.
His whole script of dialogue is like 19 lines.
It's all
in a
action.
2-hour movie. punches, uppercut, karate kick. Okay, that's not what you're here for, though.
What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about, you named this episode, so I'm excited about that.
Emotions in motion.
Emotions in motion.
Let's talk about feelings.
It's my favorite thing to talk about.
It's a topic to talk about. It's actually really important.
And we're unfortunately not going to talk about your favorite feeling, which is...
I am not hungry right now.
Oh, that's good news. That's good news.
So we're good.
Okay, so let's plow on then, shall we? We're going to talk about kind of 3 headline topics that are going to melt into each other, which I always really like when things fit well together.
Mm-hmm.
Like me and you.
You're a list person.
I'm a list person.
And analogies.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought the list up because I think I would have forgotten to mention this. I did mention the last one, but here we are in take 2. I'm going to tell them a little bit about how we choose the topics.
Okay.
For Front Porch Feelings. Forgive the cough, ladies and gents. Apparently that's going to be a thing today. So I have a running list on my phone. It has about 30-ish.
It's long.
Points. It is long because I'm a thinker.
You are.
I put all my thinks down there. So we go through the list, and it is a variety of short phrases and little paragraphs that have happened to me, that people have spoken to me, things I've read or seen that I find relatable. And some of them are later topics. Some of them are, I'm going to write this down, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet. I'm too emotionally elevated to talk about that right now. So all these things in small bits came from the list. And there's a purpose in saying that sometimes I wait to talk about certain things, and we're going to get there. But right. Kind of the main highlights we're going to hit today are making your choice the right choice instead of trying to make the right choice. Tricksy, but we'll get there. We'll explain it. Regulating your emotions.
A really important one, and often really difficult for a lot of people.
Me included. And how energy is contagious.
I like that one.
And they're all going to kind of float into each other a little bit. Let's just right out of the gate start talking about making the choice the right choice instead of making the right choice. I heard this expression. I did try to look it up and find the original source, but I couldn't quite find who. A lot of people have spoken on this, but I couldn't find the original source. So feel free to Google if you want to try to learn that yourself. But basically the concept is, instead of worrying yourself to death about, am I making the right choice? Make the choice and make it right.
I think there's a common thing with people of inflicting anxiety on themselves about what if. You can what if forever to no avail, to no, and still get no further in choices.
Someone used to say to me, don't worry about the what ifs, worry about the what is. And there is some validity to that, but that is also an extremely frustrating expression. Like, okay, but the what if is everything that isn't this exact second that we're in.
Right.
It's the rest of my life. So of course I'm going to worry about it. Of course I'm going to put some thought and energy. We're going to come
definitely put thought into things.
But I think a better way to think about it, instead of don't worry about the what ifs, worry about the what is, instead of thinking about that, I think it would be so extremely emotionally, physically, spiritually beneficial to take your two choices, choice A or choice B, and let's just say moving to Hawaii, for example.
It's a good one.
Because we both
might happen.
it could happen. You never know.
Could happen.
You and I both at different times had to make that same decision. Did we want to move here? I'll let you talk about your situation so that it's everything that can be said and nothing that can't.
Pros and cons, right? I was presented with an opportunity that, one, there was work here necessary that was not being done, could not be done by the people that were already here. I had the right skill set, the right opportunity, the right time, but the drawbacks are leaving friends, leaving family, leaving a city I had lived in for over 20 years and picking up and moving, right? But
it was especially tough, I think,
make a choice
because the youngest is young. The youngest child in our family is young. And so there's less, some of the cons were heavy.
Right. And they still are.
Yeah.
But
it was difficult is what I kind of want to get out of that.
He was actually one of the most encouraging people.
I was not. I was like, what? You're going? Yeah, it was an interesting situation. But at the end of the day, you had choice A, stay, choice B, move. And I think you are the poster child for making the best out of a situation. Whether it's a bad situation or not, you make the absolute best out of it.
Right. You don't have to live your life in regret.
It is hard to make a decision and not worry about if the other choice that you didn't make was the better / right choice.
Right.
So I was also presented with the opportunity to move to Hawaii.
Make your choice the right choice.
Yeah. So mine had quite a heavy con list as well and affected a whole lot of people, much more than just my family and friends. And I mean, it affected our whole community. And I wish I had kind of had this concept in my mind, 7 months ago when this came up and this decision had to be made, because I think it would have made the transition easier. But choice A, move. Choice B, stay. If I had chosen choice B, obviously life would have been very different. Not bad, not better. That beeping is our coffee pot going off.
Coffee's ready.
But if I had chosen to stay, then that would have been the choice that I would have needed to make the right choice. So obviously I chose to move. Everything about that has been the right choice because we've made it so.
Right.
Do we desperately miss the children every single day? Absolutely.
Definitely.
We don't really have many friends here. We don't really know anybody. So missing that community where people are, I'm in the grocery store almost every single day that we were in Augusta. People knew us and called our names and waved hello and, asked about us. And, that community feeling, it's important and it can kind of feed your soul a little bit. Moving had to be the right choice if that's a choice I made.
Yep. And it's improved your health
tremendously. It's the only thing that was going to make my health better.
Yes, it was the only thing.
It was really the only thing. So there really was no choice. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
There's a lot of benefits to the choices that we've made over the past year.
It would be easy to sit and mull about and bellyache about things that are maybe less than ideal. We live in a very small apartment. And coming from the pink house, it was a shock.
That's just a lifestyle, though. That's stuff.
It's still the difference between choice A and choice B, So instead of saying, okay, well, I guess we live in a little bitty apartment now, we've turned the couch into the pillow palace.
There are like 15 throw pillows on this couch.
6, 8, 10. Sir, don't over exaggerate.
There used to be 3.
And aren't we both happier for it? Choices were made. Yep. This is the choice you live in now. I think it really doesn't matter if you are starting a relationship and you don't know if you should or not. If you're ending a relationship and you don't know if you should or not. If you are leaving a job or beginning a new one. If you're starting a hobby or starting a new fitness goal or, just generally a new stage in life. You have to decide that whatever the choices that you're making are the right ones, instead of wondering if you made the right one. You did.
One of those things about when you start to make choices, it becomes easier to continue to make more choices.
Yes, and this is something you said in the first round that I want to hold on to that with my heart, because I think sometimes people can get paralyzed
Mm-hmm.
by decision making. And I get it. I really do. Some of these decisions, they change the entire trajectory of your life,
Right.
and they're important.
The lack of making a decision is still a decision.
That's true. And that can be more damaging than whatever the quote unquote wrong decision you might make.
And don't complain about it.
Don't fuss. You made a decision, stick with it. But it's when you are able to do exactly what you said, which is make more decisions, it builds confidence. Because here's the thing, while making each of your decisions can change your life, it's unlikely that it's going to ruin it. So, your bad decisions, if you're not watching the video, I'm doing air quotes, they're learning experiences. And it's very unlikely that it's going to ruin your life or put you in a desolate position or be something you can never ever come back from.
Right.
And if you're making those decisions that you think, oh, I can never ever come back from this, that's not a small thing. That's something that you really need to be digging deeper into yourself and figuring out how you got where you're at and what you're doing. That's not something that you commit yourself to and then just go forward with if it could ruin your entire life. Just
apply
don't.
critical thinking. That's a given, but
Yeah.
but make a choice.
So it comes down to the simplicity of whatever you decide is the right decision. You just have to make it so. Whatever you decide you're going to do with your life, take the new job and then do everything that you can to be helpful, resourceful, have an impact on other people's lives, have a good attitude, so and you know what, maybe it's not what you thought it was going to be. It's not the job you thought you were going to get. Then use it as a stepping stone for the next choice that you make, so that you've learned, you've gained experience, you take the next choice, and then that's an even better right choice.
Right. I mean, life isn't.
It's not a straight line.
We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, right? But you will be faced with situations tomorrow.
Get on board and let's start right now. So that's it. Yeah, just make whatever your choice is the right choice, instead of worrying about whether you made the right choice or not. You did. You just have to make it that way. The next thing we're going to talk about is emotional regulation.
No, not those kind of regulations.
The law of emotions. I could probably write a book about the law of emotions. Listen, we are not children anymore. When you see a little kid in the grocery store and they're having an epic meltdown, that is sourced from the inability to communicate.
Yeah.
They do not have all the words and the actions and the gestures and the emotional regulation to communicate well.
And their bodies are still growing, and chemicals are still off balance.
Absolutely.
Throughout the whole thing.
And them's little brains, so squishy, so squishy.
And what I typically do, right, is pretend they're not my kids.
Yeah, they're not your kids. And first of all, you never make a big deal if any kids are having a fit or anything. And I try to always look at the mom and go, you're okay. You're doing okay. We've all been there. This is not about you. You're doing fine. Stick with it. Stay the course, whatever choices you're making. But we are not children. We are well equipped with life experience, with fully formed brains for the most part, most of us. And we have the ability to make choices about how we act and react.
Which also means you're accountable.
Yeah.
All you people.
Yeah,
you're accountable for all your choices.
You're responsible for your own choices.
Mm-hmm.
They're yours and only yours. And the way that you behave is, honestly, it's always going to be a reflection on you and not your situation.
Right.
So, a couple of things that came to mind when writing this point. One was a message that I received. When I decided to sell the pink house, it was kind of a doctor's order sort of thing.
Your health was gravely at risk.
Yes. And there were a lot of unknowns during that time. There were a lot of tests being run, a lot of things being figured out. It was a big change for our family. It was a big change. It was a very difficult time for me because I wasn't even able to get out of bed for the most part during
Right.
that time. So, physically, emotionally, a difficult time. And I got a message shortly after we decided to sell the pink house and focus on my health. And that message was very ugly. And it went on to say, listen, I follow you. I think I shared the message in a live video and said, listen, I follow you. I've been following you for years. I deserve to know what's going on with you.
Your personal health information, I deserve it
You
because I say
owe
so.
this to me. And
Uh,
if you don't tell me, you've lost a follower and you've lost a fan. And I just won't be bothered to keep up with you anymore if you can't be bothered to tell me what's going on.
what a genuine human being.
Obviously, she cared very much about me.
Yes.
She did go on to say that it was okay if I didn't tell everybody, but she deserved to know. So I want to point out that when you speak, even if it's in a message, those things stick with people.
Mhm.
This was several months ago, and I think about this regularly when I go on to share or not share information. And it actually had an adverse effect. She thought she was going to kind of bully me and guilt me into sharing, when what it made me do was say, obviously, I share too much. So I'm going to start holding things a little closer to the vest, right? When you act out that way, it changes people's perception of you. Whether that is who you are or not, that is who you're viewed as. I went through a little roller coaster of emotion within the first few minutes of receiving that. So first I ignored it, and then she sent another message saying something similar and just kind of continuing to emotionally berate me and guilt me. And I felt bad. I felt really ashamed that I wasn't sharing it. I felt like I was letting people down. I felt that, maybe she was right. Maybe I owed it to her. And I wasn't paying her back the way I was supposed to. And then I got mad, which is
That is
uh,
where we needed to get to.
Yeah. And it's an emotion I don't feel very often. I am seldom angry.
Right.
And I took a few minutes and I took a breath and I thought, okay, what's really happening here? And I did what she should have done, which was regulate my emotions. And I thought, okay, this is really not about me. This is about her. This is her bad behavior. This is her bad etiquette. But I have to respond. And so I was able to kind of make a statement about it and make a video and say, listen, this is not acceptable behavior. It sets a standard when you respond to someone's bad behavior. People aren't used to being called out. And I'm never going to be mean about it. You're never going to be able to say, oh, Miss Darlin yelled at me, raised her voice, called me names, picked on me. That's not me. That's just not me as a human being. You're never going to be able to say that about me. But if she had just maybe looked at herself a little bit more before she went off the handle about not getting information, the situation would have been different.
She shows selfishness.
Yeah, absolutely. The bad behavior often is completely rooted in selflessness. Something else that came to mind was, and I'm always very careful when I reference other folks, especially if I think people will know who I'm talking about, because my goal is never to be mean to anybody or bring other people down. But at the end of the day, realities are realities. And so there was a person who really lost all of my respect for a variety of reasons, but one was the inability to regulate personal emotions. This person had a platform, and let's say they had a captive audience a couple of times a week, and they would get up in front of this captive audience and use this tool and this space and this energy to kind of pick on other people,
to rant,
to almost literally, and at least once literally, stamp their feet over a wrongdoing that had happened to them. The way somebody had bothered him, bugged him, irritated him, whatever. And so I remember feeling some secondhand embarrassment on their behalf, just like, oh, wow, this feels foolish. This everything that I've known about you until these kinds of instances had made me think you were intelligent and educated
Mm-hmm.
and that your heart was really in the right place. And then as I watched this behavior evolve and continue, I thought, wow, you are not who I thought you were
No.
in a variety of ways. Obviously respect was lost. And then more than that, confidence was lost. Started wondering about how many other times I'd had conversations with this person and things had been put in my ear that were really just selfish, hurt feelings
Right.
and not really true.
So it was an example of abuse of his position, his authority in his
Sure.
social group. It shows he's egocentric. It's also childish.
It's difficult because if that emotion had just been regulated, and I'm not saying be a robot. I'm not saying you can't say things, hurt you, upset you, make you angry, whatever. You can have all the emotions. It's the delivery, it's the audience, it's
up to you how you respond.
Yeah, it's that energy that you're putting out into the world and where you're putting it. So that's something I think about all the time. I think about those kinds of things because now they make me more aware of what other people are saying, almost suspicious, which is so disappointing that that sort of energy coming out of somebody my response is suspicion and concern and acutely listening for any little thing. So I think about that one. And then kind of I thought there was one more thing I was going to talk about. Oh, yes. The last thing I was going to talk about was, and these are all things that the point of giving these examples is that if these folks had just managed themselves, regulated themselves a little bit more, our direct relationship would be different, but also their entire persona and reputation would be different. And that matters a lot. And so I started to work with a person, we'll call person A, and person A outsourced some of that work to person B, which was a person was on their team. Fine. I didn't really know anything about person B except what I had heard from person A that all this is fine. Some things happened between person A and person B that were not to person B's liking, basically. And as a result, person B typed up a semi-hateful message, making some demands about the work, making some demands about the way things were going to go moving forward, and making demands about changes in contracts and things like that that had already been set up and dealt with for months, and sent me this message. And then a few minutes later, unsent the message. Well, guess what? I saw it. It hit me in the gut. It hurt me. It damaged my confidence in this person. And then person A came back and said, oh, person B was just really upset and really emotional and didn't mean to send that. Person B had intended to type everything out furiously and get all their feelings out and then delete it. But that's not what happened. If you want to type everything out, get it out on paper, I consider that a form of journaling. Absolutely. And then you can reread it later and think, that's right. I was exactly right in all my feelings. Or you can rip it up or you can burn it and hope that the flames will engulf them and dissipate. Whatever. I don't care what you do.
You take a breather and think about the situation.
Yeah. But when you start sending messages, whether you meant them or not, now it's out there.
And you're responsible for it.
Yeah. So
you can't pretend it didn't happen.
Absolutely. And person B apologized multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I forgave the situation, but I will not forget about it.
Right.
I can't.
And as a result,
we don't work with person A or person B anymore.
Right.
So that damaged what could have been a lucrative work situation.
But we're moving
on. We made a choice, circling back, to no longer do business.
Right.
And we've made that the right choice by doing business with somebody else that served us better. Had we chosen to continue working with them, and we could have sat and said, okay, but what if we go to somebody else and there's not that whatever it is, but we've made this the best choice and it's worked out for us. But that person ruined her reputation in my eyes. I had been referring people to this group, this team. I don't do that anymore. I can't in good conscience because I'm not going to subject someone else to that. So your lack of regulating your emotions, it has consequences. Maybe you don't care about those. Maybe you're like, I said what I said. Okay, well, and things will happen from there. Choices will be made, whatever. So I think we've said everything we need to say about that. It is really important to acknowledge what you're feeling, process it, and decide. This is something I did want to say, whether it's a 2 or a 10. Big D is a big feel. Actually, both Big D and Little D have big feelings all the time.
So does number 3.
I think number 3, she channels it inward a little bit more. Big D and Little D, it's out there all the time, whether you want it or not. But Big D is notorious for making a 2, something that's like, okay, this is inconvenient. How do we handle it? Into a 10, the world is on fire. And so we talk with her often about, okay, is this a 2 or a 10? And she'll go, okay, let me consider this, regulate it. Okay, it's really probably a 4. Okay, well then can we please treat it like a 4 and not a 10? We can put the fire extinguishers away. We don't need them right now. So it's just a good practice in every stage of your life. I promise if you can help learn to regulate your emotions, you will eat better, you will feel better, you will sleep better at night, you'll have better relationships all the stinking way around with everyone you interact with. And then the last thing, which is energy is contagious.
I like energy.
You have the best energy out of anybody I've ever met. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. People are drawn to you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay. For example, we were whale watching the other day. I actually mentioned the day of, I was like, this is going to come up and I'm going to talk about this. And we didn't talk about this in take 1.
They needed to see the whales too.
No, listen, there are several small groups of 2s, 3s, 4s of us sitting on this shoreline, all spaced out, and we are counting whales
for the census. Yeah.
Yeah. You forgot about this.
For NOAA.
For NOAA, we were counting the patterns. So, did we see a fin? Did we see a tail? Did we see a spray? Whatever. So, right. You and I are sitting in our little chairs all by ourselves over, because the point was to spread out so we'd have a good range of view. By the end of this event, everyone was just gathered around us. We're still sitting in our chairs, and everyone is standing around our chairs or have dragged their chairs to us because you are the mayor. You are like the one that brings everybody together. They're like, man, that guy's so cheerful. He's so nice. He's intelligent.
It's the dad jokes.
It is you to the core. It is all the goodness that you just push out. And so people just right over to you.
Thank you.
And that's because they want to be involved with whatever energy you have.
Energy is contagious.
It is.
Activity.
I can't think, I joked about this in take 1, so I'm going to say it again. It's kind of like somebody waking up in a bad mood, which is fine. That's okay. You can be grouchy from time to time. We're not robots.
Right.
It's like, stomping around with a little cloud over your head and your person going, are you in a bad mood? No, I'm not in a bad mood. Are you sure? Because I'm not in a bad mood. And they're like, well, I'm not in a bad mood either. It's like, if you're going to be grouchy, I'm going to be grouchy. Because I can't pull the energy for all of us, So people want to be around the goodness, but if you're exposed to negativity often enough, you will become a negative person.
Yeah, that is also contagious, unfortunately.
I do not care what kind of willpower you have. If it is sprayed onto you day in and day out in the right way by the right people, it will become a part of who you are too. So, be mindful of the energy you're putting out and be mindful of what you're exposing yourself to. Now, if Bertha on the other side of the cubicle is just a negative Nancy all the time, I should have just gone with Nancy. Dang it. Should have been like, negative Nancy on the other side of the cubicle. It's too late. It's too late. We've gone too far. You can't move cubicles. You can't quit your job because Nancy can't, dissipate all her bad feelings about everything. But you can choose to spend the time that you have control over with people that are not like her.
Right.
One thing we talked about earlier was some people have such a great impact on your life that they are a piece of many cycles and layers of your life, right? So we're going to go back to somebody that I was extremely close to and spent a lot of time with, and our families had really, really bonded together. So it was like our two families were really knit well together.
Yeah.
And this person would plant these little seeds in my brain all the time. And what was being watered was not goodness, it was negativity. So the conversations would seldom talk about, you're doing a great job, the business is going well. Instead, it was, hey, did you see that this other bakery posted the same cake as you? Did you see that this person is using a picture that's just like yours? Did you see that they're promoting the same thing? Da, 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 da. And it was a lot of like in my ear, pushing those negative thoughts onto me. And I was trying to ignore that behavior. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Be the person that is trying desperately to be creative and be innovative and bring something that's not out there, and then push your button that says, look at the cool thing we're doing. And then watch 10 minutes later when they push their button and it's the same cool thing. And now you're literally head to head in something that should have never been a competition. That's hard to stomach. So sometimes a little healthy competition is good, and sometimes it just wears down what is already a frail heart. And that was my situation. And so what I did was unfollow, unlike, no, thank you. I do not want to see posts from this person, not in a bad way, not in a, I don't want anything to do with you way, but in a, I'm going to stay focused on myself. I'm going to worry about myself, worry about my own business. And I'm not going to think about this, because that's a choice.
Right.
This is not your spouse who you live with, so you can't ignore it. This is
another bakery in town copying your menu because they don't have any original thought.
I don't have to expose myself to that. It doesn't benefit me to put time and energy into that. It doesn't benefit them. It doesn't benefit our customers. So I was choosing to ignore it. But this person just in my ear all the time made me so anxious. They turned that energy that could have been focused on improving myself, improving the business, trying to push forward, trying to keep going, trying to keep putting goodness out into the world. They push that energy into anxiety, into anguish.
Your stomach was hurting all the time?
All the time. I thought I had a disorder or something. And I was like, I got ulcers. I don't know. But I was in such a state of distress, all because this person that I kind of aligned myself with and connected myself with was poisoning me in a lot of ways. So you have to be attentive to what energy is coming into your life. There was a youth pastor, Tracy Presley, who was such a good guy. Had this lovely family. He's a pastor over at Journey Church in Augusta now. He used to tell the kids, and maybe this is a very common youth pastor expression, I'm not sure, or I don't know if it's his, that's why I'm kind of crediting it to him, but he would say garbage in, garbage out. And a lot of times that was in reference to music, TV.
We use that at work a lot.
Do you really?
Yeah.
In this sense?
Yeah. If you make something and it's like you made it not the most efficient or with half of your critical thinking abilities, you make something, you don't expect it to like produce gold on the other side, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. I've really only ever considered it in sort of a spiritual sense. But I mean, obviously it makes sense. If you're listening to people cuss all the time, you're bound to have some cuss words come out.
Yeah.
And, again, some of that's situational and you don't have choices about it. But
no, I mean, Florida Georgia line is a really good example.
I don't know. I have such a vendetta against them.
They're awful.
Poor Florida Georgia line. Rascal Flats, too. They're just suffering.
They're just really lost.
Anywho, it really does become a result of what you expose yourself to constantly is kind of who you'll start becoming. So this is our recap moment. Are you ready? Whatever choice you make, choose that to be the right choice regardless. Don't look back. This is the choice you've made, and therefore it is the right choice. Make it so.
You have one life. Live it.
Yeah. Set yourself up to success because you have so much control
Right.
over your life. Regulate your emotions. If you don't, it can ruin your relationships, your reputation, your business. It can damage other people.
The other people and your personal health.
Yes. You hurt other people when you don't act right. And if you're not worried about other people, worry about yourself as well and the damage you could be doing to yourself. I'm not going to get started on that again because now I feel all riled up about it. And then also, energy is contagious. You become what you surround yourself with. You get to choose what your energy gets pushed into. And so I think everybody should spend more time with people like you. I really do.
Be kind.
It's not that hard.
Right.
It really isn't. And if you can't be kind, be quiet. You can't be kind, be quiet. I say that all the time. Sometimes I wear my shirt that says that, and people everywhere stop me all day. They're like, "That's good right there."
Yep.
People should. That's good. I'm gonna start saying that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it for us for today. I hope that somewhere this gives you a little value to your life, to your relationships, to your future. If it's not something you feel like can apply to you directly, maybe share it with a friend or your family members. You can talk with us on social media, Facebook and Instagram.
You're all over them.
We're everywhere. That's kind of where you get your more personal experience with us. And then you can also listen here every Monday, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Yeah.
Have a wonderful day.
Please, please, please take care of yourselves.
And each other.
See y'all later.